You're listening to Nothing Small About Business, where big thinking meets real world action. Ready to level up? Let's get into it.
Today's guest is a sought-after speaker and small business entrepreneur and the founder and owner of H4 Training Gyms. He's built his career on a passion for customer service and customer experience, and today helps other small business owners transform their customer service. He recently authored the book, Crushing the Competition with Service, which is available on Amazon. Hank Ebeling, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Sarah. Great to be here. Obviously, we go way back, so awesome to do this.
Yeah, it's fun to come full circle here now, right? So I'm so excited that you're here because this is a topic that can make or break a business. So before we dive into all things customer service, talk to me a little bit about how you got to where you are today.
Yeah, just always had a passion for fitness and that whole realm. So started back in college. Went to college in Las Vegas. Worked, those of you familiar with Vegas, at the Venetian Hotel, Canyon Ranch Spa, and had an initial boss there. She was English. She used to work on cruise ships. She was very proper and all about just body language and presentation. And the Venetian Hotel's an upper, kind of demographic in terms of income. So she was all about, this is how you stand, this is how you position yourself, what's the first impression. So from an early stage of my career, I kind of learned the importance of service, impression, body language. And then from there, just started working at Equinox, which is a large chain in Chicago, New York, LA, all the large markets, another upscale environment. And then that led me to H4, which I opened back in 2013, our second location back in 2017.
That's really cool that you were able to go to Vegas and come away with some really good things that you learned and not the, more negative.
Just the gambling. Yes.
That's a tough age to be in Vegas for. Okay, so you are all about like superhero customer service. So talk us through what that means and what that is.
So basically it just means, be your customer's superhero, right? Be their hero, be everything to them, think about them first, put them at the forefront. And to me, it's kind of like the ultimate competitive advantage, right? Everyone will always think of, I got to market, I got to spend money in that realm, which is super important, but service can be your marketing for a zero cost.
Right. So is that something that obviously needs to trickle down from like the top? So you mentioned, when you're in Vegas at the Venetian, they're talking about how you stand, how you speak. There's so many interesting aspects there. So tell me a little bit more about like the details of how that would work coming from the top down.
Yeah, so if you're trying to build a service-driven culture, so as I like to call it, superhero level service, it's all about, I use a LTS, like to say, a methodology, and so that stands for leadership, team, and systems. So we always like to say, think of it as a triangle, leadership on the top. If you look at the Ritz-Carltons, the Chick-fil-A's, all the highly thought of service-driven businesses, they all have a leader at the top. Chick-fil-A's instance, he has passed, but that leader that has that mindset, that lives and breathes it 365, it starts with them, because you could have the best team, the best systems and strategies, but the leader doesn't put service as a priority, as a top thing in the ring, it won't matter. So it starts and ends there, and that's, Have
you found that even if you have like the best product or the best location, that if you don't have that customer service aspect, that could really hurt the bottom line of the business?
Yeah, because obviously some industries it's all about just like price and you maybe have a monopoly on it. But for most businesses, you have a lot of competition. So that service could be the differentiating point. And so if the leader just doesn't have that mindset, or it's all about let's squeeze the customer for every penny they can, you just don't get that same mindset, and that just trickles down. And you just don't have that culture that, what we're referencing, which is that superhero level service, that service-driven culture.
Right. And so for you, in particular, opening up gyms, what are some of the things that you brought into your gyms as like a very service-oriented experience?
So one of the easiest things to do is look at your businesses. What do other businesses do that really annoy people, and do the opposite? Now, of course, you can't do everything for the customer. At some point, you got to do some things for your business. But like for our example, for the gym business, what do people hate? They hate cancellation policies. And so most gyms will say, if you
Valid
don't
point.
cancel, if you don't cancel within 12 hours, 24 hours, we're going to charge you. And it's totally understandable. The business doesn't want to lose that money. Totally understand. However, most people have kids, have a job, have life. There's things that come up. So we say we do not have that policy. We're going to work with you and be flexible. Now, however, if someone becomes a repeat offender and it starts to be, okay, this is an issue, we'll have that conversation, but people appreciate that we have that flexibility for them. And you maybe take a little bit of a hit from a financial standpoint, but you make that up in the customer side of it, that they love that perk. And that's something that we always say, hey, guess what? XYZ gym, they charge you, we don't. Oh, really? Wow, that's great. I love that. So that was probably the biggest one. The other one is we offer towels and water, and that seems like a small thing, but again, some gyms will nickel and dime you for, give us X amount for towels, give us X
$4
amount.
for a bottle of water. Yeah.
So we want to provide that. Again, do we take a little hit financially? Of course, but it's just another way for that client of ours to be like, oh, wow, okay, you guys, I can grab a towel. I don't have to worry about, how much is that extra to my membership? So two things that most gyms don't do, we made sure that we did do.
And I would imagine that most people will follow the rules and not take advantage of that. But it's just nice knowing that you don't have to worry about it. So have you found that most people still abide by those rules, even though you don't have them in place?
Yes. In fact, I really honestly just a couple times where I had to be like, hey, Sarah, this has been a lot of times you've missed. Like, we need to maybe...
You're not coming to the gym.
Yeah, like, do we need to switch days and times? And it's not even like a terrible conversation. It's more about them and making sure they're getting in and showing that care side. So, yeah, we found that it works. It's not like, oh my gosh, look at everyone's canceling. It's just a disaster. So
that's an interesting perspective, because business owners can look at that like, oh, you canceled on my class. They take it personal. This is hitting my bottom line. Now somebody else didn't get in. But you're actually flipping that around and saying, start with the care part and say, what's going on with you that you're not able to show up when you've committed to? Is it something we can help with? Are there adjustments we can make?
Yes.
You're like building a relationship as opposed to it me versus you type of scenario.
And we tell them that out of the gates, hey, Sarah, we don't have a cancellation policy because we want to be flexible. We understand life's crazy. However, if we notice you're missing a lot and you're constantly no-showing us, we will have that conversation with you because we want you to come in, unlike most gyms. So right from the get-go, they know, okay, here's the expectation. Here's what they're going to do if I don't kind of meet that expectation.
Right. That would be interesting for business owners that are listening. If they have some policies in place, don't let one or two people kind of ruin it for everybody. Really look to see if, okay, can we pull back on those and see? So like one thing that we did at our optometry practice was not count all the days that people took off, because life happens. And it was more of like, don't take advantage of the system. If you do, then we'll start having a conversation, but it's not going to be like, okay, you're on your 7th day, you're sick today, I don't know, it's not excused, So it's just being flexible with people and hoping they don't take advantage of the system.
Yes, 100%.
Very cool. So what are some other things that you've seen businesses do it right, and then what businesses can do wrong?
So I think one of the easiest things, and maybe we'll touch on this later, something you could do right now, but one of the easiest things most businesses do wrong is in terms of just being responsive. Like, you and I could probably sit here and go over how many times we've reached out to a business, social media, phone, email, text, you name it, and you just are like, are they getting my message? Like,
do they want business?
Do they want, like, think about that. It is very hard to make money as a business, survive as especially a small business today. And somebody's like, over here, I want to give you money. I want to potentially use your services. And businesses are just not being responsive. So to me, that's the easiest way. If you could just be responsive, you're probably ahead of 90% of businesses.
And is that a systems problem?
I think sometimes systems, or I don't want to say, you hate to say it, but just not caring, right? I'll get back to them, or I'm busy. I got so much going on. I'll get back to them, like almost a selfish approach. I did a little test once just to see, for a presentation I was giving. I reached out to 20 plumbers in the area. I had no affiliation, did not know any of them. Emailed all of them with the same exact message. Hey, looking for services. And I gave them all up to a week. And within a week period, 1 out of 20 got back to me. Not even like trying to be hypersensitive. Hey, it's been 24 hours. How have you?
You're on the clock.
I mean, 7 days.
Wow.
One person.
And you wonder if that's because they're so busy now and they don't have somebody that is just worrying about customer service. And what you're in your top, you're like, oh, the business is flowing so easily. Well, what happens when it doesn't? Now you've not built up your clients. You're working so much in your business, you're not working on it.
Yeah.
And these people you're calling somebody else immediately. You're not waiting on somebody to call you back a week later.
And some people listening might be saying, yeah, but you don't get it. We're so busy. Or let's say someone like a electrician, a plumber, or someone in that type trades. Well, I'm on a job. I can't just pick up the phone or answer an email. Totally understand. But what you can do is send a note that says, hey, Sarah, currently I'm on a job. I got your message. I'll get back to you within the next 3 hours, 24 hours. Like something to let that person know you saw this, you got this, you heard me, you're getting back to me versus just silence.
Right.
So if you're out there and you're saying that, well, I'm just too busy, you at least got to communicate. We received it. We'll get back to you.
I imagine there's so much AI in place that people can set up a system where it's an automatic text message if they get a phone call. And that has just that. I'm busy. I'm on a job. I can't wait to talk to you, and I will get back to you within a certain time frame.
And people will understand that because you communicated it versus just like, are you ignoring me? Do you not want my business? And think about how many business people you're going to lose because everyone's so like, oh, they didn't respond. I'm moving on.
I for sure do that.
Yeah.
If you're making one phone call, you're like, this is my time frame that I set aside to solve this problem. And if they're not going to answer the phone or get back to me, you have to move on to the next person.
You just got to, you don't have time to wait for these businesses. So if you're the business, gosh, how much money are you going to lose just from something so dumb as not being responsive? Mm-hmm. So I'd say that's one of the biggest things you see people fail at. Well, the best thing I think people do is I think there are a lot of gyms, any businesses that bring the care factor, that really do care about their customers and clients. But where the failure comes usually is consistency. They might have a great staff, and then a month later they lose some people, and then there's no consistency, and we can talk more about that. But so I think you see the care factor, but you don't see the consistency always.
Okay. And is that because then they start focusing on other areas, or the systems are not in place where you're following XYZ every single time?
Yeah, it would be a little bit everything. So it would be you start to lose focus. So many businesses, when they start, let's say you open a business tomorrow, you're going to be super all in on service, right? Like, I got to grow this business. I got to get my reputation. But then as you get busy and distracted, or maybe you start having success, all of a sudden you might forget about that. You might say, let's cut corners. Let's push that off. And the other thing is just no process. You said systems for onboarding. So there's no consistency. I might hire you and you're great. I trained you well. Now we fast forward, we get busy. I just bring in Dan, and Dan, all of a sudden I'm like, yeah, here's a notebook, figure it out.
Right. I'll train you in a few weeks when things slow down.
Yeah, talk to this person. They've been here for a couple of years, and then all of a sudden you just get inconsistency. So there's a lot of factors.
And I would imagine that it goes beyond just the initial onboarding. So if you onboard somebody, what does that process look like after 1 month, after 6 months, after 3 years? Is it something that they keep up with?
Yes. And it's like, hey, if I talk to you something right now that's so important, and then I never talk to you about it again, you're just going to forget about it. You're going to think it's not important because you're like, oh, this guy doesn't talk about it anymore. So as a leader, you have to keep top of mind. And some of the best businesses out there, they'll do like every year or two, they'll do like a refresh. So they'll bring their team in and they'll almost refresh them like they're a new hire. So they'll go over all the key, here's our standards, here's what we're about, here's the culture, here's our service vision, all that stuff. They'll bring it back in just to kind of keep it top of mind and make sure all that stuff is still very clear in the expectation. So that's something you could do too.
And so with your gyms, for example, how do you figure out like, okay, where can we improve? What can we do better? These are how to handle different conversations. How do you even figure out where to start with, where improvements can be made?
Well, one, you got to talk to people. So we usually do twice a year I'd say no more than twice a year, else it gets kind of a little much. We run a survey, so I'll send out just a quick 3 to 4 questions. I know sometimes people roll their eyes at surveys, but it's a great way to get feedback, and we're actually going to send one out here in the next week or two. Gather that information, and then obviously got to take action on it. What are they saying? what seems like it is an issue, what's the most important things, let's take action. And then I think as a leader, you got to actually be talking to your team. If you have a very large operation, are you talking to your front lines, or you just hide in your office? Are you talking to your customers? In our case, am I going around talking to clients? Hey, how's it going? What's going on? Oh, you know what? I feel like this trainer is always late. This trainer doesn't really engage. Listening to what they have to say. Don't just assume you know what's happening unless you're actually out there seeing it and hearing it.
Okay. And if you say you have a trainer, you have a team member that kind of seems to be a bad apple. You've tried to work with them on customer service. Maybe it's a personality issue. Maybe they just don't understand. Is that something where they're just now not the right team member, or do you go through some sort of training with them?
I think the conversation you have to have is to make sure it's not a you problem, as in you as the leader. Mm-hmm. So if it was, let's say you're the trainer, the employee, Sarah, right now, our expectation here is X, Y, Z. I don't know if right now I feel like you're living up to that. Is there anything like I'm missing, dropping the ball with you? Do you feel like you need some more training from me? Do you feel like I'm not coaching you enough? Whatever the case may be, because maybe it's you. They're like, yeah, you never talk about this. Months ago you told me you were going to go over this with me and you haven't, and I just don't know how to do this. And so now it's like, before you come at that person, shoot, it's me.
Right, I'm the problem, it's me.
I'm failing this employee, this team member. So a lot of times business owners will just be like, Sarah, what are you doing? I can't believe how you're not doing this, how you're not doing that. And you might even let them go. And it was like, shoot, I failed. So if it is a you problem, then you need to fix that. You know what? Yes, let's set up a time. We'll go over this training. We'll do this and that. And then if you're not seeing it, now, okay.
Now you've at least gone down those avenues.
We had this conversation. This is what you said you needed to improve. I provided that. I'm not seeing that. Maybe it's time to move on.
Mm-hmm. I like that, giving them the opportunity.
Yes.
And taking it on yourself and saying, okay, what can I do better?
Yes.
To make my team, be the best they possibly can be.
Yes.
Okay, so one area that I'm really interested to hear is, what happens when you have a client, a customer, patient, somebody that's coming in and it's a negative situation. Something did go wrong on your end, or that person's having a really bad day and they're coming in with something that is upsetting them, and they're, berating your front desk, or they're really upset with your trainer. How do you handle situations like that?
It's a great question. I mean, the first thing to always understand is, it's hard as a business owner. You feel like it's your baby. Your business is your baby. Like, you feel like almost like this person's attacking me, my team, and you go on the defensive, right? You get very defensive. Your team members get defensive. Got to protect the house. How dare you say this? And if you have that mindset and you do that, you lost. You're going to ruin the situation. So the first and most important thing is, don't have that defensive mindset, even if that person, it seems like, I can't.
They're wrong.
They're wrong. What are they saying? Because what you have to remember is, whatever their reality is the reality. Mm-hmm. Even if you disagree with it, it is their reality. So therefore, that's the reality of the situation. So don't get defensive, and then just accept the reality. And then the other thing is, the number one thing is listen. The guys in the audience listening to this, what does your wife want from you, your girlfriend? To listen.
Just listen.
Just listen. Take the same approach here. If you just simply listen, you're ahead of the game probably by 80%. Mm-hmm. Just let them vent, yell, scream, whatever, and then just, reassure that. Sarah, I totally understand. If I were in your situation, I would totally feel that same way. It's very understandable. We dropped the ball. We didn't let you know about the change in appointment. That person now says, okay, this guy listened to me.
This probably disarms them pretty quickly.
It disarms them a little bit versus what do we normally do? Like, well, no one ever says that. Well, I can't believe, our team wouldn't do that. It's very defensive, and all you're going to do is elevate that person to get more defensive.
And then,
And then you just both keep going up and up, like you see the volume on the, music. It just doesn't do anybody good. Mm-hmm. So take that approach.
I imagine those are then the first people to write a bad review. Tell everybody about it.
Yes.
They want to vent to as many people that are going to hear as possible.
And you have to remember, like, if you have a negative experience, this is not the age of, all right, we lost Sarah. You go social media, we maybe lost 500 potential customers, 1,000, I mean,
well, social media, that is a great
social
point.
media is the ultimate, right, amplifier. So you really have to handle those situations, and you got to teach your team how to do it. You can't like sit there and go, oh gosh, I hope Sarah's working when somebody complains because she's amazing. God forbid, you know, Mike's working, it's going to be a disaster. If you're like, have that mindset, that's not good. You have to teach your team some sort of proper system to handle those.
And almost like
we
a
could go
role
into that
play.
too if you have time. But.
Right. Yeah. I'm curious to hear more about that because it's almost like a role play situation where, you know, say the person at the front desk, they're the first person to probably hear of whatever grievance is happening. And so if they have never experienced that before, all the emotions they're feeling inside, you have to be really emotionally intelligent to say, okay, take a deep breath. Let me hear them out.
Yes.
Let me, you know, respond instead of react. That's probably something you have to practice a little bit.
You do, and it almost becomes like a mindset thing. But yeah, we could kind of run through here quick. There's so many different acronyms. A lot of different businesses have all different ways, but it all comes down to basically saying the same thing, just in different ways. So what we like to say is acknowledge. We just talked about that. Acknowledge the complaint, acknowledge the issue, and that's listening, repeating it back. Show that you acknowledge that. Second, then, of course, apologize. It might not be your issue, somebody else's. The worst thing you could say is, oh, they always mess up. It's always them.
Someone else.
It's a we thing. So when you use words like they and them, that's putting it off on somebody else. But really that somebody else is also on the same team as you. So
Okay.
that's not a good thing. So always use we.
Because it's we as the collective.
We dropped the ball. We need to do better with that. Or if you're a one-woman man show, I dropped the ball. I need to do better with that. So acknowledge the situation, apologize. Then you got to simply make it right. And if you don't have the power to do that, make sure you communicate who's going to be able to do that. Sarah, you know what? I'm going to pass this off to our manager, Chris. Chris is going to get back to you within the next 24 hours. He'll have a full report on everything that we're going to fix, the refund, all of that. So look for that. Here's his number in case you don't hear from him. I'll also follow up with him.
Oh.
If they win, you win. And that's what I would say to leave you with is if you win, you lose. They need to win the argument, if you will.
And at the end of the day, it's not personal.
Yeah, it's not personal.
So on the flip side of that, what are some really interesting things that you've seen businesses implement that goes above and beyond with customer service?
Well, I think one thing all of you can do, something we do, I always talk about when I give presentations, is what the Ritz-Carlton excels at. That's surprise and delight. And that just essentially is what it says. Surprising and delighting your customers with instances that they're not expecting. So it could be, Sarah, you're a client of mine. Well, I'll give you a perfect example. We had a client, this was maybe 5-6 years ago. She was one of those like super positive individuals. Like you build the ideal person to work with, that would be her. And her name was Julie. And she came in one day to the gym, her normal 7 a.m. session, opposite of what she normally is, like kind of cranky, disheveled, just out of sorts, and it was clear something was off. Like, Julie, what's the matter? Got this huge presentation at work. I'm very stressed. My kids are going nuts this morning. The dog was just a disaster. She's like, just the morning is an absolute mess, and it's really stressing me out. And she goes, on top of it, I didn't have my coffee. And this was one of those women that we all know, those people that when they don't have coffee, they're just like their life's over. And so, okay, we're just listening to her. The session starts, and I say to one of my team members, hey, let's go grab her a coffee. We know exactly what she likes. We have that relationship. We go get her a latte. Session's winding down. She comes to the front desk. There's the coffee sitting on her desk. We put a little smiley face, her name. You would have thought we dropped $500 in cash on the... I mean, like, what's this? Well, this is for you.
Wow.
Like you said, you have a huge day with this presentation at work, and your morning's kind of been rough, and we know you need your coffee. That's kind of your little superpower. And she's like, you guys are amazing. Okay, she leaves.
I think I would have cried. I probably would have cried.
A nice gesture, right? Well,
right.
Fast forward a couple hours later, she sends a nice text. I nailed my presentation. You guys are awesome. A couple hours later, she goes on social media, puts a picture of the coffee, and writes this long post about us and how we're not a normal gym and what we did and how it flipped her day, I could not pay for any better marketing than that.
Right.
So
that's so cool.
Now that's just an example to show you that's an example of surprise and delight.
Okay.
And that cost us what? $5?
Surprise and delight. I love that.
Yeah,
I feel like
and so now some of you are like, well, every time someone has a bad day or this or that, you're going to buy them something. Well, no, that's just an example of seeing an opportunity and going after it, right?
Right,
Making
and
the
just
best
keeping
of
your
it.
eyes open for those opportunities.
And so the way you do that is you have to kind of systematize. You have to create a budget. You usually pull the money from like your marketing budget because that's
great marketing.
And then you make sure your team's aware. This is what we do. This is the money we have. Please be on the lookout for these opportunities. You empower them to act. If they have to go buy the coffee, in our instance as a gym, if they have to give someone, we had a client once who's like, I love these bands. When I travel for work, it'd be so nice to have these in the hotel room. One of our trainers gave him a pack of bands. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to be like, why would you do that? I can't believe you gave him that. That's part of what we do. Instead, it's, wow, that was great. I love that you did that.
Yeah.
So letting your team know, empowering them, and then every month spend the money only on that.
Mm-hmm. That would be interesting to track too, and it probably doesn't have to cost that much to make someone's day.
You just got to use it on that. Some businesses that will be like, well, I'm going to use it this week. We need some office supplies. Oh, we need this. No, it's just for surprise and delight. And it doesn't have to be monetary. It could just be your time has value. So look for those instances. We could sit here and talk all day of different examples, but it's something that any business listening could start doing.
That reminds me of a book that I loved called Unreasonable Hospitality.
Yes.
Great book. And you're not going to be able to do some of the things in there. I was almost blown away. I'm like, you really did that as a restaurant owner? But it just gives you an idea of those little things here and there that can completely turn around somebody's day. And they're going to remember you for that way longer than if you never acknowledged it or never acknowledged them.
And it's the ultimate marketing. And if you haven't read that book she's referencing, it's a great book. And he talks about in there a couple, I think it was from France, who was in New York and they're eating at his restaurant and they didn't have time to do the scenic everything in New York, and I think they really wanted, if I remember the story correct, wanted a New York style hot dog.
It was a hot dog,
and
yes.
so someone on the team went and got one and got all the fixings and gave it to him, like to make their experience just that much more. And he was like, this hot dog does not gel with what we do as a restaurant, but it's going to make their day, and I just help them. And so it's stuff like that.
What a memorable experience for them.
Yeah, and we, give you another example. At our gym, at our one location, we have a pizza place next door. Not ideal for a gym, but one of our clients we saw walk over there. They came into the gym for their session, and our trainer was like, oh, getting pizza? And they were like, yeah, we're getting it for our kids. Pick it up on the way out. And we called the pizza place and said, hey, put that on our card. And so when the client got done, they walked next door to pick up their pizza. It was paid for. We took care of it. They came back in like, what are you doing? You're buying our pizza. And
wow.
Again, small gesture.
You're going to have line out at the door being like, yeah, I get free coffee.
Didn't have to do it. And you're like, wait, pizza? Why are you buying people pizza at a gym? But again, something you don't have to do. You seize the opportunity when it's there to just make an impression.
How cool to empower the team too to do that. I feel like the team members would be excited about like, let me find these opportunities. And once you start looking for them and create that awareness, you'll probably notice them a lot more.
And they'll come up all the time. My team will be like, oh yeah, we should do this. Hey, did you hear about this? What about this? And I'm like, I didn't even know about that. Or, oh, that's a great idea. I didn't think about that. How'd you know? Like, and they want to bring it to you in what you're saying. And so they become like a little army for
like ambassadors.
You. Yeah, a little army of surprise and delight, but you have to empower them to not be so scared. If I do this, boss is going to yell at me. Okay, well, they're never going to do it then. So.
Right. It's almost this whole separate category. I love the surprise and delight category.
Yes.
Branding, marketing, surprise and delight.
Yes.
That's very cool. Okay, so talk to me about the importance of what is service vision and standards, and do you compare that against your competition? Like, do you figure out what they're doing, or do you not worry about other people and you just focus on your standards? Talk to me through that.
So this is all about you, and we referenced at the beginning, all great businesses that are service driven have these two things. They have a service vision. It could be tied into like a mission statement, but ideally it's its own thing, and basically it just says what your team describes your team, the service that they're going to deliver. So it's like the beacon of light, the torch that leads your team from a service standpoint. So like ours is care, commitment, community. Ritz-Carlton is ladies and gentlemen, serving ladies and gentlemen. It could be some words, it could be a phrase, but you use that to hire, to fire, onboard, to keep people accountable, because that's like we're leading the charge with this statement. And then the standards are service standards that apply to all positions. So I'm in fitness, it could be your front desk, your trainer, your manager, everybody adheres to those standards. And what they're not is like operational standards. So operational would be like, all right, Sarah, I hire you. You work the front desk. I need you to answer the phone within 3 rings. All right, well, that's like an operational, how to do your job. Okay. Service standard would be something more like an example we teach. We say world stops mentality. So that's a service standard. What that means is you and I are having a conversation as staff. Somebody walks in the door, immediately say world stops mentality. Everything we're doing ends. That person becomes the most important person in the room.
That is a great point. I can't even tell you how many times I've walked into an office or walked into a store.
Secondary.
And you're like, hi, sorry to interrupt.
Hey.
Right.
So, yeah, that's a standard that I don't care if you're front desk, a trainer, this or that. Everybody can adhere to that. So ideally,
what did you call that? The world stops?
World stops mentality, we call it. It's just you want things that are easy to remember that you can coach. And so ideally, if you have maybe 8 to 10, and then that is what you then, during your onboard, teach those new hires. Hey, we have this service vision. This is what we're all about. Here's our standards. Let me give you an example of these. We had a coach that did this. Hey, we had surprise and delight. This is what happened. Like, you give them real world examples and let them know the why, like how they're involved in this and why it matters. So 8 to 10 standards, and then have that service vision. If you have those 2 things, you basically lay the groundwork for having that service-driven culture, which it starts and ends with that.
Right, it's just going to elevate your business from there.
Yeah.
So one of the last things I want to end on, I feel like we could talk for hours of all these different topics, and I think people can actually have a really good way to look at their business and think of things a little bit differently. But like, what's the one easiest thing that people can do today to improve the service that they provide?
You know, we talked about it earlier, but I just think it's so important with the responsiveness, because that costs $0. You probably don't have to go hire anyone different. Yeah, maybe you set up like an AI thing, but just be more responsive. And that in itself will elevate you. Remember, we talked about the example with the plumbers, no one getting back. Just think if one of those, we said one person, but even that one person now, business stands out just because they were responsive. So I would say, number 1, just be responsive. And number 2 would just be put service at the top of your priority at all times. Not when it's convenient. Oh, shoot, our business is down 20%. We should probably start caring about people and taking care of them. Do it when the business is great. Do it day 1, day 500, day 2,000. Put it at the priority, because when you do that, the money always flows, right?
Right.
People first, profits will come afterwards.
And these are all very easy things that people can implement.
Yeah, you know, service isn't rocket science. It's just a mindset, and it's just doing it.
Right. So yeah, I would recommend everybody get your book.
Yeah, check it out. It's an easy read. It's under 100 pages because we're all busy and we don't want to sit there and read an 800-page book. So it's super easy to read.
So many good little nuggets in there.
Yeah, little nuggets, and it'll really just give you a little framework what to do for your business.
Awesome. And I'll link your book in the show notes on this as well.
Awesome. Great.
So cool. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. It was great having you on the podcast, and hopefully you can come back in the future and we can do a follow-up on this topic.
Yeah, thanks, Sarah. It's great to have me on, and hopefully you guys got some great value.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thanks for listening to Nothing Small About Business. Make sure you follow this show so you don't miss the value in upcoming episodes. Share this with someone who's growing, and connect on socials for more.